Shalom and good evening, brothers and sisters. I'm coming back up here because the Father has done it again. He had placed a word in my heart, and He wants us to look at this word because when you understand the past, you're going to understand the beginning. As you know, we are in the last days, and a lot of things are being revealed. Also, the things that's done in the dark is also being brought forth in the light. And now we're looking at this word because they too have hidden themselves well. Okay. What you see before you, my brothers and sisters, is a picture. Okay. And on this picture, it has the words origins of the Amorites, forgotten civilization. And the words on this picture is very true. This is one of the nations that we see in the Holy Scriptures that is not talked about much this day, and it's for a reason. Okay? Hold on for a minute, brothers and sisters. Okay, I'm back. And you're probably saying, what is Sister Yitia talking about now? But first thing first, we'll come back. I will be sharing some copyright materials with you for the title of this word and this message for today that relates to these end times is Egypt and Babylon, Part 3. In the fourth generation, the iniquities of the Amorites is not yet full. Now, I know some of y'all are about to say, what this got to do with us now? Okay. But I ask you to bear with me so you can see what this has to do with us. Okay. Whether you're an Israelite or whether you're a Gentile, you need to hear this information because when the Father put these scriptures in my heart, He is telling us something deep and what it relates to now. Okay. As we're looking at some copyright materials, we are going to learn what the Bible is telling us so we can understand what is happening now. As I said before, we are in the last days. We are that blessed generation that shall see the coming of our blessed Messiah that comes in the name of his Father. Okay. And the one I'm talking about is Yahusha HaMashiach, for he is the Son of God. He is the Messiah, the anointed one. He is the left known as the door of the sheep, and he is the iron, which is he is the fountain of the living waters, and he is the light or the eye of the body. Okay. So according to the law of this land from the United States of America, the federal law says this. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyright motion pictures, videotapes, or video disc under certain circumstances without authorization of copyright holder. This infringement of copyright is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news, reporting, teaching, and parody. Okay. And I'm going to say this again, quote and unquote. What I'm sharing with y'all today is for fair use. It is to edify the body of the Messiah, which is the house of God, the house of Yah. Okay. Also, I also want to declare this because we will be going into the Bible. And according to federal law, which is number 97-280, that the Bible is recognized as the Word of God. Okay, so the Bible that I'm reading unto you would be the King James 1611 Bible. So the United States of America, forgive my tongue, y'all, has declared the Bible to be the Word of God, and we will be reading from that to understand what is happening now. Okay, which bring me to this. A lot of times I don't get a chance to post on my Facebook page, but on the YouTube page, I want y'all to go to the community tab, and I want you to get updated because there's so much now happening into the world for those who are watching and praying as the Messiah instructs us to. We are seeing the birth pains now increasing. Okay. Not only talk about disastrous things dealing with the weather, but y'all, it's so much going on. I'm telling y'all, if you're not watching, um, many gonna be surprised what is happening and what is coming. Okay. So the first person I want you to look at, and I want you to share this with all Christians. They really need to hear this. It is on the community page, and I will create a playlist titled Egypt and Babylon. Egypt and Babylon, okay? Because there's a brother who have done a video titled Iran versus Israel. Luciferian Albert Pike's WW3 with a question mark. Okay. Um, Definitely watch that video. He is giving you understanding what is happening now. This is dealing with a vision that Albert has saw, and his vision is recorded. You can get your copy of it, and two of the three things that happened at vision has come to pass. Okay, has come to pass. So it's very important that you get a copy of it and that you share with our brothers and sisters who are Christians. Please share this with them. Y'all, it is about to get hot in the fire pan. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Also, on the community page, there's other things that are listed to let you see the judgments of Yah that is upon the earth now. And unfortunately, we're not going to see these things advertised as they should be because they don't want the majority people, they don't want the majority of Adam, mankind, to see that there's something's going on, something's not right. And what is going on, my brothers and sisters, is that our Father in heaven is now judging the earth. For Zion affliction has been fulfilled. This is what's going on. But unfortunately, we are in Satan's kingdom, the fourth beast kingdom, and they control these news. Okay. Um, and because they control it, they're not gonna show you everything. So we have to do our due diligence to know what is going on in the world. Okay. So check that out, especially what you see what's going on in Dubai. That was no joke. And what happened in Dubai kind of remind me what has happened in the Burning Man festival too. Okay. There's a video on the channel that talks about that. But for those who are watching, I'm telling y'all, as a believer of the Messiah and who has received salvation, in other words, who have received the renewed covenant, I'm telling y'all, I'm seeing what the Bible is saying now. We can see these things being right fulfilled before our eyes. All right. So check that out when you have some time, as well as, there's earthquakes, there are, pestilence going on. There are also hailstorms going on, and which remind me what we learned in part one and part two. It mentioned some of these things. Okay. So again, brothers and sisters on the channel, if you have not watched part one and part two, please do so, because this is going to connect to part three. And I'm going to, again, put a playlist together titled Egypt and Babylon. I may add something else to that title, but look for the playlist on the channel. So part one that I'm talking about that you need to watch is Israel and Iran. Part one, the word of Yah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, known as Israel. Hear what the word of Yah has to say on what is going on pertaining to Israel and Iran. Part two is Egypt and Babylon, the eagle, the pyramid, the great city, spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. Definitely watch that so you can understand this part now that the Father has put in my spirit to preach unto you, to teach, and to what's the word I'm looking for? To preach and teach. Okay. I am a prophetess of the Most High. I am one of his mouthpiece. He has ordained and appointed me to operate in this office that he has given unto me in the body of the Messiah. Okay. So the next thing we need to go to is, let me see. Not this picture. We're going back to the picture we started with. Here we go. All right. So the Amorites. Hold on for 1 second, y'all. Okay. Sorry about that. So you probably saying, what do the Amorites have to do with what's going on with now? The question you need to be asked, why they have forgotten civilization? Why nobody talks about the Amorites in your biblical studies? That's the question we need to be asking. Why are they a forgotten civilization? And what I mean by that, most of us still remember or talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, one of the cities that our father destroyed. So if we can remember an ancient city that our father destroyed, why we don't talk about the Amorites? Why nobody's teaching about the Amorites? Okay, that's something we have to ask. So let us first go to the living word. And I want to share with you the scriptures that the Father had put in my spirit, okay, or in my heart. And before we go to Genesis 15, I need to go to Deuteronomy chapter 5. Deuteronomy chapter 5 first. Because in the title, it talks about a fourth generation. Okay. And you know our Father's the same, and he does repeat himself. And when I see something that's the same, y'all, it makes me go back in the past and study it and to understand my Father's ways so we can understand what is he saying and why does he do these things? Why did he do the same things? Okay? Because if you know about anything about history, it does repeat itself. In Deuteronomy chapter 5, the King James 16:11, in this chapter, we have the 10 Commandments. And I remember when we would read the 10 Commandments in this chapter, the fourth generation word is within these commandments. Okay. So let us start reading verse 8 and go down to verse 10. Okay. Thou shalt not make thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself unto them, nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah, thy El, am a jealous God. Underline that, y'all. He's letting you know he's very jealous, okay? Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children. Iniquity, y'all, means unrighteousness. So when he said visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, iniquity means unrighteousness. Okay. And the word visiting means that he's judging. So he's what? Judging the unrighteousness of our forefathers upon their children. And it goes, and that judgment will go up to unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. So he's being more specific of how, I'm sorry, he's being more specific on the judgment that will fall upon them in the third and fourth generation. And he's saying unto them that hate him. Okay. Then the word going to say in verse 10, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Now, we often hear these instructions throughout the whole volume of the book. He said, love me and keep my commandments. So if we love our Father in heaven and keep his commandments, he will show us mercy. But those who do not love him and who do not keep his commandments, look what's going to happen. Judgment is going to fall upon them. But as we look in verse 9, we see that this judgment will fall upon what? The third and the fourth generation. The third and the fourth generation. So now that we have established this foundation, now let us go back to Genesis chapter 15. Genesis chapter 15, here's the chapter summary. Yahuwah encouraged Abram. Abram complained for want of an heir. Yahuwah promised him a son and multiplying of his seed. Abram is justified by faith. Canaan is promised again and confirmed by a sign and a vision. Okay. So in that chapter summary, we see that the land of Canaan is promised to Abram. And as you do your study, you'll learn that it is through Abram or Abraham lineage that they will receive that land. And we know Abraham is a descendant of Shem. The reason why I'm saying these things is very important that we understand who come from what forefather as we get into studying the Amorites. Now we're going to skip down and we're going to read starting at verse 12. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, and horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thou seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Notice what happened here. These descendants that come from Abraham shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Now, going back to the 10 commandments, we know that the children of Israel are Abraham's seed. Okay, they're of his lineage. And we know that they were a stranger in the land of ancient Egypt, the house of bondage, because that's in the 10 commandments, because he reminded them, remember when thou was a servant in the house of bondage in Egypt. But when you do your studies, you will learn that they was not in Egypt for 400 years. Okay. Book of Jasper will confirm it. When you do your math or whatever numbers we have in the Bible will confirm it. And the work of Josephus will confirm it. Now, I am aware there is a passage in Josephus that say they was in Egypt for 400 years. But there is another passage in Josephus that says it breaks down to 430 years. It's talking about from the time when Abraham sojourned out of his kinsman land into Canaan, okay, his sojourning, to the time that the children of Israel come out of Egypt, which is 430 years. Okay. So again, do the math. So some of you are probably scratching your head then. Why is verse 13 saying that the children of Israel will be afflicted for 400 years when they was not afflicted in Egypt for 400 years? It was like maybe 210, 215. So you probably ask yourself, why would this verse say that? And when it comes to this verse, I want you to meditate on it and I want you to seek unto the Father about this verse, because I know many people are going to say otherwise. However, I do have historical facts of today. The Father's reminding me in the United States of America, in the year of 2019, when Donald Trump was president, he admitted, I can't remember what they call it, but they recognize um African Americans. That's what they call them. But we know they're not African Americans. We know they have a nation, they have a tribe, and most of them are waking up to being the children of Israel. So this country, United States, does recognize them of being here for 400 years. For they was brought by the English settlers. I am aware about the Spaniards, but when we look at the year of the English settlers from England or Britain, they start bringing them over here, what we call the New World, North America, South America. I'm sorry, North America, and my people call it Turtle Island, but they start bringing them over here in the year of 1619. So in the year of 2019 to the year of 2020, when you study the Most High calendar, it's very different from the Roman calendar of today. You will learn that that was the 400 year. So when we look at this verse here, it says that they shall be afflicted. So since we have been here, we have been afflicted by our oppressors, not been treated fairly, been in chattel slavery, and it still go on today. We are still not getting any justice for all the evils and wrongdoings they have done unto us. Okay, so you can do research on the history. I mean, it is definitely evident today. Okay, so I know some people going to have different opinions about this verse. However, the Father wants us to look at the verse that pertains to the Amorites. And you'll see why with the evidence that he is having me to present unto you today and how it relates to what is going on when we see in the land of Israel that today they call the land of Palestine. Okay. Let us continue to read verse 14. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. So remember, judging will go in hand with visiting the earth. So the Father's going to judge that nation of whom the children of Israel serve. And afterwards shall they come out with great substance. Okay. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. So Yahuwah is telling our forefather Abraham that he's going to live a good, peaceful life. Okay. And he's going to live a long, good life. You know, he did live, I think, up to 175 years. So with this particular vision that the Father is letting him know, or what he saw, okay, would not befall on him. He let him know that it's going to fall on his seed that come after him, and that's dealing with the children of Israel. Okay. So verse 16, let us go on to read. It says, but in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Highlight that verse, because now I'm going to break down the fourth generation. So we read in the Ten Commandments how when the Father is judging, Okay, of the iniquities of our forefathers. That's why you see the children of Israel today. When we pray, we ask our Father to forgive our forefathers' sins, because when you learn about generational curses, we learn that it was passed down from descendant to descendant, and someone in the family has to break it, to keep history from repeating itself over and over and over again. So this is why you would see us asking our Father in heaven to forgive our forefathers' sins, so that we can receive forgiveness. So our foreparents can receive forgiveness, because we don't want their iniquities to come upon us, meaning that we don't want to do the same thing they did. Okay. We want to come out of that generational curse. All right. Also, we saw in the Ten Commandments that not only the third generation, but with the fourth generation, if we love him and keep his commandments, he will have mercy upon us, and those judgments would not fall on us. But those who do not love him and do not keep his commandments, then that judgment will fall upon their head, of what their forefathers passed upon them. Okay, so to understand what number going to represent the fourth generation, when we go back to verse 13, we see we have 400 years. So each generation for this particular formula, for this particular verse here, each generation is made up of 100 years. Okay. So when you look at third generation, that is the 300 year. When you look at the fourth generation, that is the 400 year. Okay. Very important to know. And the same verse here is letting us know that when we get in the fourth generation, which we see now for the children of Israel who are in America, that was recognized of being here in this country for 400 years, from 1619 to 2019. Okay. We were recognized being here for 400 years. All right. So now, we are seeing that we are that fourth generation. Okay. The fourth generation is here now. And like I shared before in the beginning of the video, I have showed you evidence how the Father is visiting the earth and he is judging. And we know one of the countries that he's going to judge is America. He's going to judge her for the evils, for the sins, for the transgressions that America has committed against his people. Okay. So now we get to the other part of the verse. It says, for the iniquities, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So you probably asking yourself, what is this unrighteousness of the Amorites that it has not come into this fullness? So I'm going to take you to one of my Bibles dictionaries, because unfortunately, one of my Bible dictionary has more information about the Amorites that we're not getting from the assemblies we are going to. Okay. So let us continue to read down before we go there. It says here in verse 17, and it came to pass when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. In the same day, Yahuwah made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thou seed, I have given this land from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Now, to understand what is the river of Egypt, and I know some people again may have you know a different answer here. Let me see here. Make sure I got the right precept and note. Here are the side notes for Genesis chapter 15. Okay. I know that in the scripture there is mentioned, I think in the book of Joshua, about the river of Egypt. So I know not in this part, I probably won't go into it that deep, maybe in the next upcoming parts, okay? But here we see that our Father is setting boundaries, okay? And on the channel, we talked about some maps, okay, that deal with the Bible and giving us understanding about the borders of Eden, okay? So in this verse, he is given unto Abram a what land that will go to the children of Israel. So he's giving us the boundaries. So he said, this land from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. It says here, the Canaanites, the Kenizzites, the Kenizzites, I know I'm not saying that right, Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, and the Hittites, and the sorry, Perizzites, and the Ephraim, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Take this time now to pause your screen because notice how the Father is mentioning each nation for a reason. Each nation. Okay? Which remind me, we probably need to go to Genesis chapter 10. Genesis chapter 10. Hold on. Yep, we need to go to Genesis chapter 10 because when the Father has mentioned these nations, it is our due diligence, brothers and sisters, that we know who is their forefather. Who did they come from? So we're going to home in on the Amorites because that's who we're talking about in this word today. So go to your Bibles and let us go to Genesis chapter 10. Okay, I'm back. We're in Genesis. Oh, I didn't even click on the button. Sorry. All right, Genesis chapter 10. Now, this is the generation of Noah, the sons of Japheth, the sons of Ham, Nimrod, the first monarch. This is dealing with after the flood, and then the sons of Shem. This is very important. You'll see why. So, when we're in Genesis chapter 10, we're going to look at the lineage that's dealing with Canaan, who is the son of Ham. Very important. So when we look at verse 15, it says the following. And Canaan begot Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite. Amorite is another word for Amorite, brothers and sisters. And the Girgasite, and the Hivite, and the and the Archite, and the Sinite, and the Arvudite, and the Zimmarite, and the Hamathite. And afterward were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as thou comest to Gerar, unto Gezer, as thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah, Zeboim, even unto Lasha. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. So you see that each of these sons of Noah and their lineage was giving lands. And they also spoke a certain tongue according to wherever families or household they come from. So this is very important, okay? Very important, okay? To look at that. So this to let you know that when we look at verse 16, we see that the Amorites come from their forefather known as Amorite. This is Old English. And he is the son of Canaan. And Canaan is the son of Ham. Okay? Very important to know. As you see in verse 6, we see Canaan name listed as the son of Ham. So now let us go to the Strong Concordance of Genesis chapter 10. So in Genesis chapter 10, we are going to verse 16. Because in the Hebrew, it's very important to understand what do the name Amorite mean. Another way of saying it is what? Amorite, right? If we are going to H567. H567, okay? And Amorite means a sayer, okay? And the outline of biblical usage is going to say one of the peoples of East Canaan beyond the Jordan. So they are what? Beyond the Jordan, okay? River. Remember where the Jordan River is. This possessed by the Israelite incursion from Egypt, right? Also, in the strong definition, we see here that they're also known as a mountaineer. A mountaineer. That's another characteristic of them. Very important to know. When we look at the Brown Driver Briggs lexicon, okay, it says that the Amorites are mountain dwellers. Mountain dwellers. That's something that you definitely want to know. These are their characteristics. Okay. Take this time now to pause your screen to look at the rest of this in your spare time. Okay. Now looking at the Jessenius Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, it also say the same. There are what? Mountaineer people. And take this time now to pause your screen for the rest of this. Now, the part I want to home in on, why do they have the name Amorite? In other words, what does it mean to be a sayer? To be a sayer. So in the Hebrew, I found the word for sayer, okay? Oh, to see why they are say a sayer, I type in the word say. Sorry about that. Oh, before we go there, this word also in the Bible can be linked to other words, such as like a soothsayer. And a lot of time when you hear a soothsayer, it has to deal with, I want to make sure I give you the correct terminology for that word, like sorcery, witchcraft. So someone who are into divination, all right? Okay. Like your psychics, your mediums. Another thing that goes with sayer, I'm trying to think, it was another word that I saw for sayer. Trying to give you an idea why the Amorites will are called a sayer. Why would they be given that? Okay. So now we're going to the Hebrew word for say, S-A-Y. And when we look at the word say, the one of the definition for say we're going to home in on is dealing with one to speak against. One to speak against. Okay. Sorry about that. My finger was a little fast. And the Hebrew number for that Hebrew word for say is, no, click right on it. You know how things do. And I do have my printout. So to save some time, um, because for some reason I cannot get it to, here we go. Like, for example, in Genesis 12 and 12, it is H559. Okay, Amar. Amar. So when we look at the Amorites, and when we look at like the biblical uses of this word, like say, and we add the er to what to say, which would be sayer, it is someone who would what boast, act proudly. And what we learned about pride or to be proud, it goes with First John chapter 2, the pride of life or the spirit of pride. That is the characteristic of Satan and his children. Okay? They are very boastful. They act very proudly. They come in eye. So for an Amorite to have that name, that is someone who will speak against. Speak against. Okay? And I'm trying to find, here it go, in the strong definition, because like I said, this Hebrew word has many meanings, but one of the meanings is to speak against. So an Amorite is going to speak against our Father in heaven. This is why we see when it came to Abraham and his lineage, even down to Jacob and Edom, They was given the instructions not to marry the daughters of Canaan. Okay? Because as we see, the children of Canaan was wicked, very wicked. Okay? When you read the sacred books about them, you will learn why they was wicked in the Father's eyes. Okay? So now we're beginning to see what the Amorites represent. They are very boastful people. They probably speak a lot of blasphemy things against the Most High. Okay. Remember, the Father tells us, according to His Word, that their iniquities have not come into their fullness yet. Their unrighteousness. Okay. So now that we set that foundation, now let me take you to my Bible dictionary book. Okay. Fair use. This is my Y Class Bible Dictionary, and the editors are Charles F. Pfeiffer, Howard F. Voss, and John Rea. This is for educational purposes only. Okay. So let us kind of speed this up because I don't want to make this video too long. So when the Father put this verse that we read in Genesis 15 dealing with the Amorites, right? And the fourth generation, it reminded me what I read in my Bible dictionary to let you know the presence of the Amorites still are here, despite what many has said about them. Their presence is still here, brothers and sisters. So, proof of what I'm sharing unto you, let's first read about Jerusalem in my Bible dictionary. And we're going to start right here, and let me blow this up so you can see the words too. It said, Jerusalem, this city has been aptly called the spiritual capital of the world. You see me underline it. So modern day Jerusalem is known as the spiritual capital of the world, modern day. Okay. A judgment underscored by the United Nations resolution of 1947 to designate it to designate it an international holy city. To students of the Bible and of history, it is perhaps the world's most fascinating community, being one of the world's best preserved medieval walled cities and sacred to the three leading monotheistic faiths: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. You see me underline that. Now you understand why it's known as the spiritual capital of the world, because we have these three religions, and these three religions are the leading monotheistic faith. That means one God. So you have Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Okay. And when you watch that brother video, you're going to see how all this is coming together. Okay. Dealing with what Albert saw in his vision. All right. Let us go on to read. Now I'm under this section that says name. Okay. Dealing with the name Jerusalem. The assumption that the name came originally from Hebrew, Shalum, meaning city of peace, appears now to be untenable. The Amarna letters, now underline that word, Amarna is going to relate to the Amorites. To the Amorites. Okay. So the Amarna letters written in Akkadian cuneiform have the word Jerusalem. The Assyrian inscription, Asenna Cherib, spell it Jerusalemu, and Egyptian hieroglyphics in the 19th to 18th century BC have the equivalent of Jerusalem. Modern scholars take these to mean found by the god Shalum, a god of the Amorites, meaning prosper. Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 2. Underline that. Y'all take pictures. Now you're seeing what the Father is telling us in Genesis chapter 15. What it's doing is breaking, where did this name come from? Where did the name Jerusalem came from? So it looked at the Amorites, okay, because when you learn about the word Amarna, Amarna, it relates to the Amorites. So it gives you their version of this word, okay, all right, which is Jerusalem, going to the Assyrian version, going to the Egyptian version of that word, okay. And it's telling us that particular word, because it's going to be a difference from what we're going to learn about the Hebrew way. That particular word, when you translate it from their language, actually means the God known as Shalem, Shalem. And this God is a God of the Amorites. And this God name means prosperer. 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 Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 2. As I'm reading this, the Father's reminding me, when you study the Bible, you will learn there are two Jerusalem. There was a Jerusalem of the Amorites, and there was a Jerusalem of the Jebusites. Now, the Jerusalem that David conquered, okay, or took over, was the Jerusalem of the Jebusites. The Jerusalem king that Joshua fought was the Jerusalem of the Amorites. Okay. Yes, there are some places that have the same names, but it's located in different areas, in different lands. So within the land of Israel, known as the land of Canaan, you do have two Jerusalems. So dealing with the Jerusalem of the Amorites, their God was known as Shalem. Shalem. Oh, I'm sorry, Shalom. And that God name means prosperer. So with prosperity, you will find that there are a nation who have a great army. And because they have a great army or a great troop, they're able to conquer many things and consume or take over people's possessions. Okay? Let us continue to read. Its ancient biblical name appears to have been Salem. Okay, so the ancient biblical name that we know of dealing with King David is Salem, and you can find it in the Bible. You can find it in Genesis chapter 14, verse 18, Hebrews chapter 7, verse 2, and Psalms chapter 76, verse 2. So notice here, the difference between Salem and Shalem is the SH. Do you see how the devil mirrors so closely to what the Father has? So the correct word for the city of peace is Salem, Salem. Okay? It is of a Hebrew form, a form of Hebrew from the word shalom, which means what? Peace. So now we see the difference from the Sayer, which is the Amorite, that has Shalem with Shalem, versus Salem, Salem. Amorite versus Hebrew. The counterfeit versus the original. Let's keep reading. God's people are to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Psalms chapter 122, verse 6. In the future age, God would extend peace to her like a river. Isaiah chapter 66, verse 12. And here he would give peace. Haggai chapter 2, verse 9. The correct Greek transliteration of Jerusalem or Jerusalem is Jerusalem, Ierousalem. So now you're getting the Greek translation of the Israelite city of peace. Matthew chapter 23, verse 37, used regularly in the lex, LXX, follows the Aram personation. Now begin the Aramaic personation, which is Jerusalem, Yerusalem, which can be found in Ezra chapter 4, verse 8 and verse 12. The alternative form in the Greek New Testament, okay, so when we go to the Greek New Testament, you will see Jerusalem spelled as Hierosolyma. It's deliberately Hellenized to make a Greek sounding name. So you know how the Greeks do, they go around changing stuff. So when we see the word Hellenized, it pertains to the Greeks. And if you look at that root word of Hellenized, we see the word hell. So when you study about the Greeks, you understand why they was given the label of Hellenizing things. Okay. Like I said, this thing gives very good information. It also go on to say, after the time of the conquest of Jerusalem, known as Jebus, you can find in Judges chapter 19, verse 10 through 11, named after its inhabitants, the Jebusites, who were descendants of Hittites and Amorites. Now, this is where your study come with the Bible. The Bible don't say that they are descendants of Hittites and Amorites. The Bible make it clear that the Jebusites are a separate nation of people. And let me go back and make sure that's what we saw in the book of Genesis chapter 10. This is dealing with the nations that came forth after the flood from the forefathers, Japheth, Shem, and Ham. So we look at Ham lineage, we see that the Jebusite came from the forefather Jebusite, who was the son of Canaan, in Genesis chapter 10, verse 16. So this is why it's so important that we have to do our due diligence, brothers and sisters, when we read other sources that's written by other people. Okay, we have to compare. Okay, but that's what they say. But as we see, we know the Jebusite comes from their forefather Jebusite. I also going to say other names include, so another name for Jerusalem is is Ariel, found in Isaiah chapter 29, verse 1. City of righteousness is another name for Jerusalem, found in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 26. And another name is the holy city, found in Isaiah chapter 48, verse 2, chapter 52, verse 1, Nehemiah chapter 11, verse 1 and verse 18, Matthew chapter 4, verse 5, and chapter 27, verse 53. Today, Muslims call it, I cannot say that word, y'all, the AL word, which means the noble sanctuary, or simply, I think it means the noble. So take this time to pause your screen to get that information. But what I want to point out to you here, now we're getting some information about the Amorites. Okay, so we know they have a false Jerusalem because their Jerusalem is not pronounced as the same of Jerusalem. They pronounce there as Jerusalem, And when you do your due diligence, you will learn that it translates to the god of Shalum, which is the god of the Amorites, and his name means prosperer, which is found in Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 2. Okay. All right. Now, when the Father put that in my spirit, I said, okay, Father, I see what you're saying. So we got to study about these Amorites and see, and what the Father is telling us. We know we're in the 400 generation now, and we know that he's visiting the earth. We can see the judgments now: earthquakes, hailstorms, pestilence, tornadoes, hurricanes, floodings. So now, we see what he's saying. So the 400 generation is complete now, and now we are seeing the fulfillment of the Amorites coming forth. The forgotten civilization. So let us go on to read more about the Amorites. It says here I'm still in the same book in my Bible dictionary that the Amorites of the Old Testament derive their name from a Semitic word, Amaru. And that is the same thing as the Amarna, what we saw. Okay. So they were saying how their name came to be. It comes from a Semitic word, which means Westerner. Westerner. Okay. The Amorites in Palestine were a part of a movement of Western Semitic nomads from 21 to 1900 BC who appear in all parts of the Fertile Crescent. Okay, this is very important to know. You're going to see why. Okay. They are included in the Genesis table of nations as a people of Canaan. Genesis 10, verse 16, reflecting the mid-second, I think that might be millennial BC viewpoint of that passage. The Beni Hassan tomb paintings of Egypt, 1900 BC, depict 37 beard Amorites bringing their wards or wares into Egypt on dockings. Kathleen Kenyon believes the single barriers of the early bronze, middle bronze period, 2100 to 1900 BC, at Jericho may be those of invading Amorite semi-nomads. Oldenburg contends that the Amorites introduced the worship of Baal Hadad in the region of Canaan. Underline that. Now you see why they're wicked. They are the one who convinced their brethren to worship Baal, Satan. Okay, which eventually displaced the worship of the god El. So we know El is pertaining to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we can see the word El in certain biblical words like Bethel, which is the house of God. Then we see in El Elohe, the God of Israel. We can see El in Israel, etc. So now we get into history that it started with the Amorites who caused their brethren to worship Satan and not the Most High. Okay, remember the sons of Noah was taught to worship the Most High. All right, now we get history on that. In southern Babylonia, the Lhasa dynasty, 1950 BC, was founded by Amorites. Underline that. Now you're going to see where their kingdoms are going. Okay. In the following century, the Amorites took over such important centers as Babylon and Esnuna, Mari on the mid-Euphrates, and had an Amorite king during the days of Hammurabi, 1750 BC, whose own dynasty has been found by an Amorite. So now you see them in what? Babylonia, Okay. Now you're seeing them around the Euphrates rivers area. All right. They also going to say the Amorites formed the basis of the Assyrian stock who settled on the Tigris between the Zab tributaries. Do y'all hear that? They formed the basis of the Assyrian stock who settled on the Tigris. So they are just like blended in like with the other nation of people. And you're going to find that out. But let us keep going. It has been conjectured that Abraham's family was among the let's see what I got here. Okay, that was the map, as you can see here. So let me bring this down. So you can see where they're at. We see the Amorites, you see the Euphrates rivers, you see Assyria today, it's known as Syria, you see the Tigris River. We also see the Babylonia, okay, right in this area. On this part here is where to the left of the Amorites, we are coming down to the land of Canaan, okay, the land of Canaan. And below the Amorites is dealing with the Arabia land, which is the land of Ishmael. Okay. And this map is dealing with the old Babylonian Empire under Hammurabi. Okay. In the days of Hammurabi, 1700 BC, and the old Babylonian Empire, the Amorites were one of the most powerful peoples of the Near East. Hammurabi dynasty was Amorite, and Amorites controls much of Palestine. Remember, Palestine's the land of Canaan, and Syria at the same time. This will be important why we need to know this. So let me pick it up from where we left off. It has been conjectured that Abraham's family was among the Amorite invaders of Canaan. Now you probably said, why would they throw Abraham in this? You're going to see when we go to the next source. Because one of the sources that you're going to read is the work of Josephus. When you read him on your spare time, you're going to find that they often put the children of Israel under the same classification of the Amorites. Okay? Dealing with their way of living. Okay, we're going to get to that part, but I'm just giving you a highlight. All right. So notice here, they will often classify the descendants of Abraham along with the Amorites. Okay. And we're gonna get to that part. In other words, I'm gonna get more specific. So let me read this again. It has been conjectured that Abraham's family was among the Amorite invaders of Canaan. Okay. Remember, you got the originals and then you got the false ones. So the Amorites are sayers and they worship Satan. Abraham descended, such as the children of Israel, they're their originals and they worship the Most High, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay. Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 3 tends to support this by saying of Judah, thy father was an Amorite and thy mother a Hittite. Again, that's dealing with the children of Canaan. They were very wicked. Now you see why the father gave Abraham and his descendant instructions not to marry the daughters of Canaan. The Amorites who spoke a northwest Semitic dialect. Now notice here, remember we read in Genesis, each of them had their own tongue. However, when you read most sources about them, you're going to learn that their language was mostly classified with the children of Shem language. Okay. Remember now, these are children of Canaan, the children of Ham. And you probably said, what they got to do with them being Shemites? Like I said, Now you're going to see how the Amorites are often labeled under Semitic. Okay? Remember, this is the forgotten civilization that has assimilated themselves and hid themselves quite well. The Amorites, who spoke a Northwest Semitic dialect, settled in various regions of Palestine, notably north of the Arnon, but especially north of the Jabbok River. It was here that the Israelites under Moses encountered them, and their king Sihon, who, like the Moabites and Edomites, refused to let Israel pass. The Hebrews celebrate their victory over the Amorites in the Baalah song of Numbers 21, verses 27 through 30. Moses also conquered the land of Og, king of Bashan, who is designated an Amorite in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 47. And what you're going to learn about them, some of them Amorites, y'all, was giants. Because again, they served Satan and they was mixing themselves with the angels. Proof of this, when you start reading Numbers, they are in the Israelite testimonies, they would say how big those people were. Okay. And when you read the sacred books, such as the sealed book of Moses, will explain how giants got back into the earth after the flood. Like I said, y'all, it goes deep. But now you're seeing what the Father is saying about the iniquities of the Amorite has not come into its fullness yet. In other words, it's still ongoing right now. Okay? Hasn't reached its end yet. But let's keep reading. According to Genesis chapter 14, verse 13, some of the Amorites who settled in Hebron area were allies of Abraham. Some of these Amorites dwell on the west bank of the Dead Sea at En-Gedi, Has Ezon Tamar. Genesis chapter 14, verse 7. They were subdued by the four kings from Mesopotamia. Genesis 14. Shechem, who fell in love with Dinah, Genesis 34, was an Amorite. Do y'all hear that? Now, Dinah is one of Jacob's 13 children. Remember, Jacob had a total of 13 children. So now, according to what this book is saying, like I said, go back and check it. But Shechem, who actually raped Dinah, okay, according to what this source saying, it said that he was an Amorite. Jacob alludes to this episode in Genesis chapter 48, verse 22, Hebrew text, when he bequeathed the town of Shechem to Joseph. Joseph's bones were eventually buried near this old Amorite Hebrew stronghold. Joshua chapter 24, verse 32. After Joshua's invasion of Canaan, a league of 5 Amorite kings headed by Adonizedek of Jerusalem opposed the Israelite army near Gibeon, Joshua 10. Okay. During the time of the judges, the descendants of the Amorites in the south of Judah were still in the land. Their pressure forced the Danites to move north, while another pocket of Amorites who lived near the valley of the A word was put to forced labor by the Ephraimites. Judges chapter 1, verse 34 through 36. Solomon eventually put to slave labor all the remnants of non-Israelites left in the land, including the Amorites. 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 20 to 21, who had tricked Joshua into an alliance. Joshua 9. It also going to say sometimes the Old Testament seems to use the term Amorite as representative of all the Canaanite tribes in Palestine. Genesis chapter 15, verse 6. Perhaps this reflects the fact that their dialect was practically undistinguishable from their third millennial predecessors in Palestine commonly called Canaanites. So they blended in. The Amarna, do y'all see that same word? So this is how I know that it's dealing with the Amorites. So this is their letters. The Amarna letters use the term Amira, that's the Hebrew word for their language, for the Amorites, of the entire region of of the entire region of Syria, Palestine, revealing how numerous the Amorites became in Canaan. Wow. On the other hand, there are passages which make a distinction between the Amorite and the Canaanite and other groups, especially when the people whom the Lord would drive out were listed. Exodus chapter 34, verse 11. Also, the Amorite had a common preference for the hill country. Remember, they are what? Mountaineers. They like mountain high places. So also the Amorite had a common preference for the hill country, along with the Hittite and the Jebusite, Harayan, while the Canaanite dwelled by the sea. Numbers chapter 13, verse 29. Later in history, the autonomous Canaanite seafarers were called Phoenicians by the Greeks, while the while the Amorites were assimilated and disappeared as a distinct people in Palestine. Do y'all hear this? Later in history, the autonomous Canaanite seafarers were called Phoenicians by the Greeks, while the Amorites were assimilated and disappeared as a distinct people in Palestine. Because of their degraded religious practices, this assimilation was stoutly resisted by the spiritual leaders of Israel from Joshua chapter 24, verse 15, down to Ezra chapter 9, verse 1 to 3. So, what I'm saying to you, my brothers and sisters, these people have not went away. They're not distinct. That is hidden. Okay, I got more proof. But this comes from my Bible dictionary, and this is the last part of the references you can see of where they got some of that information. Now, take this time to pause your screen. Now we get into the juicy part. So I went to my usual Wikipedia, and Wikipedia will give you nuggets, y'all, of things you can look at. And let me give you the highlight that I found in this article. Okay. So under racialism, this is how I know that these people still exist, because history is going to tell you a lot, and even the present day. The view that Amorites were were fierce and tall nomads. Remember, I told you they were giants, right? Because never mixing with the angels, Satan and his angels, right? So they were fierce and tall nomads, led to an anachronistic theory among some racialist writers in the 19th century. So we're looking at what? 1800s. That they were a tribe of Aryan warriors. Underline that, y'all. Where have you heard this word Aryan before? It should be sending y'all some light bulbs. Okay? This is where they're getting this stuff from. So now we see that the Amorites are associated to be what? The Aryan nation. Okay? So writers in the 19th century that they were a tribe of Aryan warriors who at one point dominated the Israelites. Okay? This belief was originated with Felix von Luschen, fits models of Indo-European migration. Remember, when we look at the creation of racism and why the world today is so prejudiced against people who are melanated, okay? Look at here. Indo-European migration. Do y'all see the foundation? Anyway, let me keep reading and you'll see how this is still connecting to the Amorites. And remember, the Amorites mixed with the fallen ones. So their genetic appearance will be changing from what they originally looked like. Okay? Because when you have the sons of Adam mixing with the fallen ones, this is where you have genetic mutations coming in. And when I mention the word melon, it's going to be affected. It's going to be affected. This is why scientists are finding genetic mutations because they've been mixing. But let's keep going, y'all. This get very interesting. All right. So we see the foundation of racism. Okay. And we see where the history of the Aryan nation come from. So fits the model of Indo-European migration persisted during this time. Remember, the Amorites were what the children of Canaan, and Canaan was the son of Ham. But because they was mixing with the fallen ones, there was some genetic mutations. Things was changing in how they look. Okay, let us keep going. As the Father reminded me about the word, what Daniel said, they shall mix themselves with the seed of mankind. Okay, that's in Daniel's chapter 2, I believe. They shall mix themselves with the seed of mankind, the fallen ones. But let's keep reading. But Lucian later abandoned that theory. So he abandoned that theory. Houston Stewart Chamberlain claimed that King David and Yahusha were both Aryans of Amorite exaction. But we know that's not so because we already got it clear. David and Yahusha are the children come from the lineage of Abraham, which come from the lineage of Shem, okay, Noah's son. So we know that is not so. I'm laughing because when you know what the word of God say, y'all, anyway, but that's what the children of Satan would do. Mix truth with lie, right? The argument was repeated by the Nazi ideologue Alfred Rosenberg. So now you're getting the history where they're getting this information about the Aryan nation. This is fair use. This is for edification purposes because we're getting the history of where all this is coming from. However, the Amorites certainly spoke exclusively a Semitic language. So now you're seeing how they are assimilating and how they are hiding themselves. They're not speaking the tongue of their families, of their country, of their land. They're speaking the tongue of Shem, hiding themselves. Okay. So it goes to say the Amorites follow Shemitic religions of the Near East. So these are what? False ones. And have distinctly Shemitic personal names. Their origins are believed to have been the lands immediately to the west of Mesopotamia. So they were saying that due to the children of Shem living near them, they begin to take on their identities, their ways of the children of Shem. In the Levant, which is now Syria, and so they are regarded as one of the ancient Semitic speaking people. Now, y'all got to laugh because they're not of Shem, but because they speak the language of Shem, Do you see how they change nations? I'm telling you, y'all. Oh, it is something. So now we're gonna start to the top. Oh, I do want to show you this map right here. Let me see. And this is dealing with the Levant, and it circles the countries or what they call the Middle East. And as we see in that particular paragraph, it talked about Syria, and we know Syria is the land of the Assyrians, and we know their capital is Damascus. Okay, right in here in this area. I just had to laugh because when you know the word. So let's go to the top. So now you get into history about this Aryan nation. This Aryan nation is dealing with the Amorites, y'all. And they have mixed themselves with the fallen ones, so they no longer look like their original selves. Okay. Their appearance has changed. They got some genetic mutations going on. Some changes also in their melanin. And remember, melanin gives color to your eyes, to your skin, to your hair. And we know that the children of Adam don't have the same height or stature like those who mix with the fallen ones. They're going to be very tall. We even know that some of them, we even have 6 fingers or 6 toes. Do y'all see? Okay, well, let's keep going. The Amorites, and I'm reading for the Wikipedia part, and it's going to give us how their names are translated in other language, such as in the Sumerian, also in the Akkadian, okay, also in the Hebrew. We see here what we read. Just take your time and follow. So in the Samaritan, that's how their name is translated. In the Akkadian, that's how their name is translated. In the Hebrew, and it's more romanized, it's translated like with the EM. And in the ancient Greek, that's how their name is translated. So the Amorites was an ancient Northwest Semitic speaking Bronze Age people from the Levant. I just, y'all, I just gotta laugh because these are Canaanites, children of Ham. But anyway, they have taken on another identity. Initially appearing in Sumerian records 2500 BC, they expand and rule most of the Levant. Do y'all hear that? So they ruled most of the Levant, Mesopotamia, and parts of Egypt. Underline that. Very important that y'all know this because this will give you the understanding why the children of Israel was treated a certain way. Okay? Very important because of these false ones or what they were doing. So they were even ruling parts of Egypt from the 21st century BC to the late 17th century BC. Okay. They established several province city states in existing locations such as Isen, Larsa, Mari, Elbla, and later found Babylon. Underline that. So they found Babylon. Do y'all see how this goes? This wicked. And the old Babylonian Empire. They also founded the 14th dynasty of Egypt. Underline that. Because when you start reading Josephus, you're going to begin to understand why they are called the Hyksos, the Amorites. Okay? And why they are often and why the Israelites are often classified with them. But we're going to keep reading. I got some stuff to share with y'all. But anyway, they also founded the 14th dynasty of Egypt in the Nile Delta, which was characterized by rulers bearing Amorite names such as Yaqbim, and were likely part of the later Hyksos. Hyksos. Do y'all see that? That is the same title that was also put on the children of Israel when they also revolted against the Egyptian when the father, interceded on their behalf. But let's keep going. The term Amaru in the Akkadian and Sumerian text refers to the Amorites, their principal deity in an Amorite kingdom. The Amorites are mentioned in the Hebrew Bible as inhabitants of Canaan both before and after the quest of the land under Joshua. Okay, now we're going to look in the history section here. I'm just going to look right quick to see if I need to read anything here. But if not, we're going to skip down because y'all, this is getting good. Now you understand why there are these forgotten civilization. They are still present among us this day. Okay. So in this part, I'm going to let you read this for yourselves, but I want to read this paragraph here. I want you to hear this. By the time of the last days of the third dynasty of the immigrating Amorites have become such a force that kings such as Shushan was obliged to construct a 270-kilometer, which is 170-mile wall from the Tigris to the Euphrates to hold them off. The Amorites are depicted in contemporary records as nomadic tribes under chiefs. Underline that, because now we get into the part why the Israelites are classified under the same topic with them as being as Hyksos, shepherd kings or foreign kings. Okay, so they are a nomadic tribe under chiefs. Okay, who force themselves into lands they need to graze their herds. Now, underline this. What this should remind you of? What did Joseph say to his father Jacob? We got to pull that verse up, y'all. We got to pull it up. Okay. Remember when the 70 souls went into dwell in the land of Egypt, when their brother was given a position or office like a ruler or something, right? Joseph, right? So let me see, can I find it? Let me think. Now we connecting all the dots. We're going to be going in chapter 45 or chapter 46 to find this. Okay, here it go. This is it. Genesis chapter 46. Oh, okay. Chapter 46. We're going to look at verse 34. Now we're understanding the history of this, y'all, and why when a new ruler came up and did not know what Joseph did for the land of Egypt, why he came at the children of Israel. Because when you understand the history, they was constantly fighting these Amorites, okay? So they won't come back and take over. And they was fearful that the children of Israel would join them, okay? Like I said, this is getting good, y'all. All right, let's go to verse 34. All right, so let's read starting at verse 31. And Joseph said unto his brethren and unto his father's house. Remember, there was 70 souls, okay, that left the land of Canaan to stay in Egypt with Joseph. I will go up and show Pharaoh and say unto him, my brethren and my father's house, which was in the land of Canaan, are coming to me. And the men are shepherds. Underline that, y'all. For their trade have been to feed cattle. They have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. And it shall come to pass when Pharaoh shall call you and shall say, what is your occupation? In other words, what do you do for a living? So Joseph told his family to say this. Verse 34, that ye shall say, thou servant's trade has been about cattle for our youth, even unto now, both we and also our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptian. Now we get in history why the Egyptian detests, abhor anyone who's a shepherd is because what these Amorites were doing. These Amorites came in their homeland and took over and became rulers. Do y'all see this? Wow. Tell you. Now we're seeing what the Father is saying about the Amorites. Their unrighteousness still have not come to this fullness yet. And I got more proof. We're going to continue to read. So now that we got that, now you see why the Israelites, when we read the work of Josephus, why they too are given that same title of being Hyksos, shepherd kings. Okay? Let us continue to read. It says that the Amorites are depicted in contemporary records as nomadic tribes under chiefs. Same thing like the children of Israel, right? We have nomadic tribes and we have chiefs. And it goes to say that the Amorites force themselves into lands they need to graze their herds. Some of the Akkadian literature of this era speak despairingly of the Amorites and implies that the Akkadian and the Syrian speakers of Mesopotamia viewed their nomadic and primitive way of life with disgust and contempt. So now we also see not only do the Egyptians look at them being as abomination or what type of occupation they do, but we also see that the Akkadian and the Sumerians, okay, speakers of Mesopotamia, also look down on the Amorites because of their lifestyle. For the Amorite lifestyle, y'all, where they was nomads, and their primitive way of life was what? Shepherds. Okay. It also going to say in the Sumerian myth, marriage of Matus also stand for what? Amorite. Okay. Written early in the second millennium BC, a goddess considering marriage to the god of the Amorites is warned. So this is what was warned to her. Now listen. Their hands are destructive and their features are those of monkeys. Now, we need to underline that because people who are melanated, we are often called this wicked word. But now we see it really pertains to the Amorites. Okay? So they're going to say that their hands are destructive, and their features are those of monkeys. Remember, they was mixing with the fallen ones. An Amorite is one who eats what the moon god Nana forbids and does not show reverence. So they don't show any respect or honor to this god. Okay? They never stop roaming about. So they are roamers, right? They are an abomination to the gods' dwellings. Their ideas are confused. They cause only disturbance. The Amorite is clothed in sack leather, lives in a tent, exposed to wind and rain, and cannot properly recite prayers. He lives in the mountains. Do you underline that? Because that's what one of his name. That's the definition of his name. He's a mountaineer. So he lives in the mountains and ignore the places of gods, digs up truffles in the foothills, does not know how to bend the knee in prayer, and eats raw flesh. He has no house during his life, and when he dies, he will not be carried to a burial place. My girlfriend, why would you marry Martu? Wow. As the centralized structure of the third dynasty or Ur slowly collapsed, the city-states of the south, such as Isin, Lasar, and Eshnunna, began to reassert their former independence. And the areas in southern Mesopotamia with Amorites were no exception. Elsewhere, the armies of Elam was attacking and weakening the empire, making it vulnerable. Ur was eventually occupied by the Amorites, so they took over. They was able to defeat the Amorites. They remained until they were rejected by the Ensign ruler Ishbi era, which marked the beginning of the Ensign Larson period. Okay, So now we got more insight of the characteristics of the Amorites, why they are wicked, and why the Israelites are often associated to them. Okay, as far as the title of Hyktos when we study about the time when they're in Egypt. Okay, and when you read Josephus' writings. So let me see if I need to read anything in the second millennium BC. Okay, so this is the part where they go into the history of how they end up in Egypt, okay, as well as other areas such as Babylon. So I will read these two paragraphs. It says, there is thought to have been an Amorite present in Egypt from the 19th century BC. The 14th dynasty of Egypt, centered in the now Delta, had rulers bearing Amorite names such as Yakbim. Furthermore, increasing evidence suggests that the succeeding Hyksos of Egypt were an amalgam of peoples from Syria, of which the Amorites were also part. Do y'all hear that? Do y'all hear that? That the succeeding Hyksos of Egypt, these shepherd kings, who are Amorites, okay? So this sentence is telling you they were Amorites. The Amorites was a part of them, okay? Based on the temple architect, Manfred Tack argues for strong parallels between the religious practice of the Hyksos at Avius with those of the area around Biblos, Ugarit, the A word, and Tel Brak, and defines the spiritual home of the Hyksos as in northmost Syria and northern Mesopotamia, areas typically associated with Amorites at the time. Do y'all see that? Okay. Now you understand why the Egyptian detests shepherds, okay, because of what these Amorites did to them. So in 1650 BC, the Hyksos established the 15th dynasty of Egypt. So we got the 14th dynasty and we got the 15th dynasty of Egypt. Dealing with what? Foreign kings, not the people of the land. And today's term, we would call them what? Imposters, colonizers, okay? And ruled most of Lower and Middle Egypt contemporaneously with the 16th and 17th dynasty of Thebes during the chaotic second intermediate period. So now you got a little history about how they was in Egypt causing havoc. Okay, now looking at the fall, let me see if anything I need to read here. So let me read the last paragraph, but I do recommend go ahead and pause your screen now and read the first two paragraphs. But we're going to read the last paragraph here. It says, after the mid second millennium BC, Syrian Amorites came under the domination of the first Hittites. And from the 14th century BC, the Middle Assyrian Empire. They then appeared to have been displaced or absorbed by other semi nomadic West Semitic speaking people. So they started blending in, y'all. Okay? And as I'm reading this, when I think of my uncle Esau, who is Edom, Did he not marry some of the children of Canaan? Okay. He too started what? Mixing himself with the other nations. And proof of that, we had two nations to come from him that he created that was later in the earth, because they're not the nation of antiquities. They're not that old. They don't go back to Genesis 10. Okay. And the two nations I'm talking about are the Greeks and the Romans. And Josephus will back me up. Josephus even say that the Greeks are not a nation of antiquity. They're not ancient. They're not old in the earth. Okay. Oh, so now we're seeing that they exist, y'all, but they have what? Taken on other people's identities. All right. Known collectively as the A word during the late Bronze Age collapse. The Armenians rose to be the prominent group amongst the A word. From c. 1200 BC onward, the Amorites disappeared from the pages of history, but the name reappeared in the Hebrew Bible. Y'all need to underline that. They are hidden for a reason, y'all. Okay? And now we're getting a standard of Genesis 15. So that's another group of people that is a part of this Egypt and Babylonian stuff. Okay? Let me see if I need to read anything in language, but we already know that they have taken on the Shemitic language. Okay, so that's another way that they have hidden themselves. Their tongue has changed. Their language has changed. All right, from being around the children of Shem. All right. Now, in the next section, they list some of their religion. Okay, you see, dealing with the type of gods they serve, but this list is not a detailed list of all the gods they serve. They serve many gods. Okay, so take this time now to pause your screen. Some of this stuff that is under biblical Amorites we have covered already, such as them being highland mountaineers, and they inhabit the land of Canaan, okay, as well as Babylon, Syria, etc. I just want to point this out again. Here they are, okay, they are aligned to the Akkadian and the Babylonian, okay, Babylonian. They are described as a powerful people, a great statue, like the height of cedars in Amos chapter 2, verse 9, who occupied the land east and west of the Jordan. Okay. Let me see what else is here. Because, like I said, it's a lot of good scriptures to go back and read. All right. Now, this paragraph is saying somewhat the same of what my Bible dictionary was saying. Even though I show y'all the lineage, but again, it's saying the same thing here. In this paragraph here, where my cursor is, looking at next to the last sentence, it says that the Amorites seem to have been linked to the Jerusalem region, and the Jebusite may have been a subgroup of them. When we look at Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 3. But again, when you read the Bible yourself, you're going to learn there was two Jerusalems. You have the Jerusalem of the Amorites, and you have the Jerusalem of the Jebusites. Now we know the Jerusalem of the Amorites was in the time of Joshua. Okay. And when we deal with the Jerusalem of the Jebusite, was in the time of King David when he besieged them. So make sure you go back in the Bible to understand the difference between those two. Now we see why these sources are getting them confused, but when you take your time and read the scriptures, you will learn there was two Jerusalems in the land of Canaan. Okay. They're also going to say that the southern slopes of the mountains of Judea are called the Mount of Amorites. So, y'all, we have a hidden people that's been hiding themselves. Okay. Um. Again, this is reinforced what we read in the Bible dictionary. For example, um, the first 5 kings of the Amorite was defeated by Joshua and the children of Israel. Definitely want to read that. Um, Now, this source is saying that the Gibeonites were said to be their descendants, being an offshoot of the Amorites who made a covenant with the Hebrews in 2 Samuel chapter 21, verse 2. But go back and read your Bible and make sure that's correct. Okay. Now, in 2017, Philip Bonstrom of the Haaretz, and that's a Jewish newspaper, observed similarities between the Amorites and the Jews. Do y'all hear that? Now you see how we have a counterfeit with the original. So he's saying they're seeing similarities. I can't say that word right now. They have things that in common or alike. They are shepherds. Okay. Before the children of Israel got their promised land, there was nomad, there was wandering in the wilderness. So you see a lot of some characteristics that may seem alike, but the difference is the Amorite worship Baal, which is Satan, but the children of Israel worship El, the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, big difference. Since both historically exist as well connected diasporic communities. He also believes that Abraham was amongst the Amorites who migrated to the Levant. Okay. Around the same time that the Amorites conquered Ur at 1750 BC due to his North Syrian heritage and shepherding based lifestyles. Nonetheless, the biblical authors only applied the Amorite ethnonym to the pre-Israelite inhabitants of the mountains. Reasons include the polemical need to associate them with the barbaric raw meat eating Amorites. Underline that. That's a characteristic of them. Remember what the Father had ordered all of mankind. We are not to eat the blood. Okay. That's in Genesis chapter 9. Genesis chapter 9. Remember the covenant that he made with Noah and his son and with all his creation. Okay. But these ones who are wicked, the Amorites, are barbaric, raw, meat-eating people. Meat-eating people, in other words. That the Samaritans imagined them as. The author also wants to portray these inhabitants as having an ancient history. Okay? Let me see what else this paragraph say. When we look at origins, I will read this first paragraph. It says, there are a wide range of views regarding the Amorite homeland. One extreme is the view that the KM word, which is Amurim, covered the whole area between the Euphrates and the Mediterranean Sea, the Arabian Peninsula included. So they had a large territory that they was in. Okay. The most common view is that the homeland of the Amorites was a limited area in central Syria identified with the mountainous region of Jabal Bishiri. Okay. Looking at genetics, ancient DNA analysis on 28 humans remains dating to the Middle and Late Bronze Age from ancient Alalak, an Amorite city with a Hurrian minority. found that the inhabitants of the A word were a mixture of Copper Age Levantines and Mesopotamians, and were genetically similar to contemporaneous Levantines, dealing with the Levant. I don't know why they just don't say the land, but another word for the Levant of today, they say Middle East, but we all know that really centering in, looking at the land of Israel and the surrounding countries that are near Israel. So I already read about the racism. So now we're getting a lot of understanding, y'all, about these Amorites and about what Genesis 15 is saying. Now we get an understanding that, that old saying that, and I can testify to this. People who really hate you, they often do reverse psychology. For example, when they was calling my people monkeys, they were really talking about something that's in them. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like they were reflecting what they feel, what's some kind of way on about themselves on others. Um, like I said, looking at the genetic mutations, in science we talk about the genetic mutations they found in man. When people find they have them, I guess they feel some kind of way, and to uplift themselves, they will oppress others who don't have it. Do you see what I'm saying? So now we can see why the melanated people are oppressed so much, because of the traits that we have. Because I was reading something in the sacred books, and I was asking the Father, why is it that the angels cannot receive repentance, those who fail, like Satan and them? And it was revealed through his prophet Enoch. It was in Second Enoch, y'all. And it makes sense. It said, if you hate the image of Adam, I'm just paraphrasing what it said, which is what? The face of the Most High, because we look like our Father in them in heaven. In other words, even though they are in spirit, they too have what? A head, a body, arms, hands, feet, etc. Well, we in the earth form have a head, body, arms, feet, etc. So if they hate you, they're not just hating you, but they're hating your creator. They're hating your Father, because we bear his image. In other words, um, another way of looking at this, if you do not respect your father and your mother, your earthly parents, if you do not honor them, how do you expect to honor your heavenly parents, your father and your mother in heaven, Yahuwah and wisdom? Okay? So you can't respect your parents in the earth, then how you going to respect your parents in the heaven? Do y'all see that? So for those angels who hate us so bad, they don't realize they too gonna hate him, because we are in his image. We are made in their image. So if you hate us, you're gonna hate them too, because we are the same. So hopefully with that example you can understand what I'm saying. So now we're seeing that these Amorites who have hidden themselves among the children of Noah, okay, they feeling some kind of way, you know. So what they feeling bad about themselves, they are reflecting on the sons and daughters of Adam, who bear the image of the Godhead. This is all making sense, y'all. It makes perfect sense. So now we're going to this article here. It said the Hyksos. The Hyksos, again, like I said, I just want to reinforce what we learned before. I just want to show you, means rulers of foreign lands. Hyksos is a term which in modern Egyptology designate the kings of the 15th dynasty, which is 1650 to 5050 BC. The seat of power of these kings was the city of Avarius, and in the now, I'm sorry, it was the city of Avarius in the now Delta, from where they ruled over Lower Egypt and Middle Egypt up to Crusade. So when you study these dates, you're going to learn that these Hyksos people was in Egypt way before the children of Israel. So by the time the children of Israel came on the scene, the Egyptians were already feeling some kind of way about those who were shepherds, or herdsmen. And it's because of what these wicked Amorites were doing. Man, this is deep. And this, when y'all get some spare time, read this whole thing here. Okay. Also, that I thought was very interesting, I was going through this article here. It's under Hyksos in the beginning. It says here in the last paragraph that the Hyksos did not control all of Egypt. Instead, they coexist with the 16th and 17th dynasties, which was based in Thebes, or you might say Thebes, or Theb. Wait, forget my tongue, y'all. Sorry. Warfare between the Hyksos and the pharaohs of the late 17th dynasty eventually culminated in the defeat of the Hyksos by Amos first, who founded the 18th dynasty of Egypt. In the following centuries, the Egyptian would portray the Hyksos as bloodthirsty and oppressive foreign rulers. So now we begin to understand when we get to Exodus. And in the book of Exodus, after these Hyksos people had put a bad taste in the Egyptian mouths, we learn in the book of Exodus in chapter 1, there was a new Pharaoh. And this new Pharaoh didn't have any knowledge of what Joseph did for the land of Egypt. It was like it was disregard. And when you start reading about these different pharaohs, the Father want me to remind you that the Egyptians are known to not record all the details of history if it didn't favor them. Also, for some of their rulers, if they didn't meet a certain standard, the Egyptian has been known to cover some of their rulers' history. So this is why it's been so hard to get information about the children of Israel being in the land of Egypt, of saying it directly. And this is why you may see that when you read the work of Josephus' writings, why the title Hyksos would be put upon the children of Israel. But the point I'm making is that the Amorites, who are the Hyksos, okay, put a bad taste in the Egyptian mouths. So when the Egyptian was finally able to take back control over their land, and later on when the children of Israel came upon the scene, and this new Pharaoh ruler who had no knowledge of what Joseph did, we can see now why he started treating them oppressively. Because he feared that my people, the children of Israel, would join these Amorites. And the children of Israel was in great numbers to the point where he feared that it would have strengthened the Amorites, who are Hyksos. Do y'all see all this? Are you connecting all the dots? So when we go to Exodus chapter 1, Now we get understanding. Okay. It said in verse 7 of Exodus chapter 1, and the children of Yisrael were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. What land it was in? Goshen. So those 70 souls became a nation of people. Okay. And they were very large in numbers. So when the original rulers or the original people of Egypt got back control of their lands, here we see in verse 8, it says, now there rose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. Okay. So this new king was trying to keep things stable and to prevent the Hyksos from coming back in, to come back in and rule. Now we see why. He said the following in verse 9. This new king, this new Pharaoh said, and he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when they fall out any war, they join also unto our enemies. Who is their enemies? The Hyksos, the Amorites, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Also, Father, remind me, I know about the other enemies, but one of the enemies they fear of coming back, taking control, was the Hyksos, the shepherd kings. So now we're seeing the whole picture here. We also learn from these sources that the Amorites still exist to this day, but they have assimilated themselves. They have blended themselves among the children of Noah. Okay. So now we understand why we have in Jerusalem today of them worshiping the God of prosperity. Do y'all see that? They counterfeiters. Because if you watch part 1 and part 2 of this video series, everything is adding up and making sense. Now we see why they invest so much in their armies and their militaries, because this is how they gain power, control, and wealth. Do y'all see this? This is, wow, amazing. Now I understand why the Father put this in my heart, in my spirit, to let you know of the other prophecy, the other part to this Egypt and Babylonian of today. So now we see that the Amorites did rule in Egypt, and they also ruled in Babylon. And we too see them being what? A warlike people. Okay. And we also seeing them taking on other people identities. Okay. When you look at what the name Hyksos mean on etymology, okay, it said it's derived from the Greek. So it's a Greek word, and from the Egyptian expression meaning rulers of foreign lands. The Greek form is likely a textual corruption of an earlier Hyksos. I cannot say that word, y'all. Even Josephus' writings, y'all, give you information about them. And in his writing, he said their name means shepherd kings or captive shepherds when you read against Apion, where he described the Hyksos as Jews as they appear in the Hellenistic Egyptian historian Manetho. So now you see that, how that title falls on my people. Okay. So according to this Egyptian historian Manetho, he this is what he wrote. He said, this whole nation was styled Hyksos, that is shepherd kings, for the first syllable hic, according to the sacred dialect, denotes a king, as is sos, a shepherd. But this according to the ordinary dialect, and of these is compound Hyksos. But some say that these people was Arabians. See, they didn't know what we was. Okay. When you read Josephus' writings, okay. But the correct interpretation of Hyksos is foreign kings. Okay. Um, Another meaning for them is what? Lord of shepherds. Wow. I tell you, Father, this is amazing. Okay, let me see anything else. So if it's anything else I need to point out, I'll bring it out in another part because y'all, we ought to know there's some more parts that are going to be coming to this. But I just want to give y'all to highlight the root of Genesis chapter 15. Wow, man. It's a lot. So the root of what we just learned in Genesis chapter 15. Wow, y'all. When we look at the prophecy said in this one verse, let me get to it right quick. Let me get there soon. Okay, that's Genesis 10. Genesis 15. This one particular verse. And the verse that we're going to home in on is this, verse 16. It said, in the fourth generation, they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Y'all, we are in that fourth generation. And the fullness of the iniquity of the Amorites will be soon complete. When you read our prophecy or vision, you will learn what is the last piece. And the last piece is going to deal with them worshiping Satan, worshiping the false God, and not the true living God. And I'm sitting here pausing because that's what we have read from those sources that is to edify us. Do y'all see this? Y'all, history, the past, will give us understanding of the present and the future. And I don't care what nobody say, this is a future prophecy. The math will confirm it. When you look at the number of years that my ancestor was in Egypt, it wasn't 400 years. Because the 430 years represent the sojourning of our forefather Abraham to the time when the children of Israel came out of Egypt, which was Aviv the 15th in the nighttime, in the evening. That's when they came out of Egypt on the 430th day. Okay. Y'all, this is making so much sense. And now we have learned that there was a nation of people who have hidden themselves. And they did it well. Very smart. And soon they're going to convince the whole world to worship the false God, the imposter, Satan. Wow. Y'all, this is deep. All right, brothers and sisters, take this time to preach that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, for it's truly at hand, and make sure the people receive salvation as written in Romans chapter 10. And if you have no one to baptize you, you can baptize yourself. For the heavens and the earth and the water is a witness unto our Father, and they can report on your behalf of entering into the renewed covenant, which is the renewed marriage that our blessed Messiah established for us. And the same is with the Holy Spirit baptism. All you have to do is ask in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, and our Father shall give it unto you according to your heart, your faith, and your works. Look out for more to come. I know Father is not finished with this topic. Love you all, and shalom.